I'm not going to talk about the trial because it is still in action, but I am going to say how I felt, which was I was really sad. I was really sad and very disturbed through this. And in part, the one thing I can say about the trial, I think, is how much respect I had for that jury. Because the jury did something really important that I think all of us need to do, and that is to separate the facts of this case from the really important issue of diversity in the Valley. It was conflated in this case. It was a bad case. Clearly, the jury was decisive in this case. They had no trouble finding us to be completely guilt-free in this case. That being said, the press had a bigger narrative, a narrative about the Valley that they tried to pull us into and resisted kind of the real facts in the case. And if all of it, none of you, I assume, were in the courtroom, so if you just read the press, it was easy to convict Kleiner Perkins. If you were in the courtroom with the jury, a very liberal jury, 6 men, 6 women, they had no trouble finding that we were not guilty. So what's the problem? The problem is that the narrative is a powerful narrative, and it's an important narrative. The case is not part of that narrative. The narrative is we need more diversity in this Valley. And when I say diversity, I'm not just talking about gender diversity. I'm talking about people of color. I'm talking about ethnicity. I'm talking about people who have physical challenges. I'm talking about older people who are being left out of what's happening in the Valley. And the reason it's really important isn't simply an issue of fairness. It isn't simply an issue of what is good for business, because diversity is good for business. It's also an issue of how important the Valley is to inventing the future of social dynamics. If you take a look at what's being created here in the Valley and what leaks out to the world, there's so much influence around how we interact, how we communicate, how we relate to each other, that if we do not have representation, diverse representation in that dialogue, in that discussion that is being innovated here every day in Silicon Valley, we are missing out on a bigger opportunity. And so diversity is an important issue. Kleiner Perkins has always been part of that discussion. 5 years before the trial, there's a piece you can see that I did online where I talk about this issue 5 years before the trial. Kleiner Perkins, it turned out, in the facts in the case, have the most diverse group of partners in the entire industry. But it's not enough. It's not enough. We continue to work every day to improve that diversity. We continue to lead our industry in setting the standards and the best practices for diversity. And I think as a group here in Silicon Valley, we cannot rest until we are more inclusive of people and points of view that help form the future. So diversity, that narrative, that's the issue, that's the important issue, and that's where we need to put our attention.